We're going to take a look at the seven trumpets, because there's a lot of questions these days about whether they're literal or symbolic, whether in the past or in the future, and is it able to be determined one way or the other? And these are serious questions that I think we need to answer. The Seventh-day Adventist Church has traditionally taken a historical approach to the trumpets, meaning that they are all in the past, except for the last one, which we're in at the moment. The sixth trumpet is said to have been fulfilled on August the 11th, 1840, and the seventh trumpet, well, that's happening from that time to now. And the trumpets are mainly interpreted as being symbolic. There is one statement from Great Controversy, page 334 and 335, which is used as evidence to try to prove beyond a shadow of doubt that Mrs. White endorsed and believed in a historical approach to the trumpets. I'm not going to go into a lot of details on the intricacies of that, because that's for another presentation that focuses on those issues. And I believe that this statement that she makes in this passage can be totally harmonized with other statements that she makes where she puts the trumpets in the future. My focus in this study is going to be the evidence for the trumpets being future judgments of God that are mixed with mercy, which will come upon the world before the close of probation. The following is taken from Isaiah 26, verse 9, and it says, "With my soul have I desired thee in the night, yea, with my spirit within me I will seek thee early. For when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness." It is an interesting observation that when disasters strike, many people become religious and attend church. After the 9/11 attacks in New York, churches across America experienced a major spike in attendance. There was a report on Fox News published on September 11, 2002, which states, by some estimates on the following Sunday of the terror attacks, roughly half of the adult population of the United States attended a religious service, but the attendance dropped off starting in November. That's a lot of people. If the population of the United States is over 350 million people, almost 200 million of those people went to church the next Sunday. Interesting. When it comes to the trumpets, the spirit of prophecy doesn't have a lot to say about them, and I believe that God deliberately intended this to be this way. If the trumpets primarily apply to future judgments on the world, it wasn't really present truth for the pioneer generation. It is for the last generation that will experience the trumpets to investigate the truth of the matter for themselves. But God has not left us totally in the dark with no clues to help us to understand. There are two statements regarding the trumpets that give us some very valuable help. One of those statements is well known by many people, and the other is not quite so well known as much. So let's start with the one that is well known, and it states the following: solemn events before us are yet to transpire. Trumpet after trumpet is to be sounded, vial after vial poured out, one after another upon the inhabitants of the earth. And that's taken from a letter 112, 1890. That's what most people quote. There are many people that twist this statement to try to deflect any reference to the seven trumpets. I've even had someone told me once that this statement cannot apply to the seven trumpets of Revelation because it doesn't say seven trumpets. It just says trumpet after trumpet. End of story, so to speak. If that were true, then also the vial after vial being poured out cannot refer to the seven last plagues either, because it doesn't say seven plagues. It is incredible how we can deceive ourselves if we have a wrong idea and we're not prepared to let it go. No matter what evidence is put before us, we can become expert in twisting things and doing mental gymnastics to the point where we can even look at something that is white and convince ourselves that it is black. I want to look at this statement in its context and then break it down. So let's have a look at it. First of all, it was written in 1890. That's what we need to notice. And it says this: "The angel, the mighty angel from heaven, is to enlighten the earth with his glory, while he cries with a mighty and a loud voice, Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen." Revelation 18:2. What is being referred to here? It's referring to the time of the loud cry. The time when the call has gone to Babylon to come out of her because she has fallen. This is referring to an event which is future from her time in 1890. Then she carries on and she says, "Oh, how I wish that the church were to arise and shine, because the glory of the Lord has risen upon her. What can we not do in God if every human agency is doing its very utmost? Without me you can do nothing." John 15:5. We would lose faith and courage in the conflict if we were not sustained by the power of God. Every form of evil is to spring into intense activity. Evil angels unite their powers with evil men, and as they have been in constant conflict and attained and experienced in the best modes of deception and battle, and have been strengthening for centuries, they will not yield the last great final conflict without a desperate struggle. All the world will be on one side or the other of the question. What is the context of what is being talked about in this passage? It is the time of the loud cry to come out of Babylon. We are talking about evil angels uniting with evil men, not yielding in the last great final contest. This passage is not talking about something that's happened in the past. It's talking about future events which have not happened yet, which are going to take place just before the close of probation. Because she continues, "The battle of Armageddon will be fought, and that day must find none of us sleeping. Wide awake we must be, as wise virgins, having oil in our vessels and with our lamps. The power of the Holy Ghost must be upon us, and the captain of the Lord's host will stand at the head of the angels of heaven to direct the battle." Here once again we see the timing of what is shown us. The context here is in relation to things that are happening around the time of the latter rain. Then she says, solemn events before us are yet to transpire. She is referring to things that haven't happened yet. Trumpet after trumpet is to be sounded, vial after vial is to be poured out, one after another upon the inhabitants of the earth. So the context of this statement about trumpet after trumpet is a future event which hasn't happened yet, and it's going to take place at the timing of the latter rain. Scenes of a stupendous interest are right upon us. That word stupendous means to be literally struck dumb by something's magnitude. Hence, astonishing. These events which will leave people speechless because of their severity and magnitude. And then she continues, "And these things will be sure indications of the presence of him who is directed in every aggressive movement, the one who has accompanied the march of his cause through all the ages, and who has graciously pledged himself to be with his people in all their conflicts to the end of the world. He will vindicate his truth. He will cause it to triumph. He is ready to supply his faithful ones with motives and power of purpose, inspiring them with hope and courage and valor in increased activity as the time is at hand. Deceptions, delusions, impostures will increase. The cries will come in from every quarter. Lo, here is Christ. Lo, there is Christ. But Christ said, go ye not after them. There will be one fierce struggle before the man of sin shall be disclosed to this world, who he is and what has been his work. While Protestants are becoming very tender and affectionate towards the man of sin, shall God's people take their place as bold and valiant soldiers of Christ to meet the issue which must come, their lives hid with Christ in God? Mystic Babylon has not been sparing in the blood of saints, and shall we be wide awake to catch the beams of light which have been shining from the light of the angel who is to brighten the earth with his glory. That's from letter 112, 1890. Do you understand the importance of what she just said? Mrs. White has placed the 7 trumpets in the context of the final warning messages to be given at the time of the loud cry which is yet to take place. During the time when the earth is to be lightened up with the glory of the angel of Revelation 18. These are not things that are way in the past, that have no significance to us in this generation. Now let us look at the second statement where Ellen White refers to the 7 trumpets. This is from 15 Manuscript Releases, page 219. She says, "This is the sharpest experience I have ever had in a carriage in a storm. When the blackness deepened with the clouds in the south, I supposed it would be no ordinary storm that we should have. And I thought of the day when the judgment of God would be poured out upon the world. when blackness and horrible darkness would clothe the heavens as sackcloth of hair. This is a reference to the sixth seal. You'll find that in Revelation 6. We have no question but our prayers were answered, and the angel of God stood by the horses' heads. Nothing was broken. The Lord preserved us, and his name shall be glorified. But I was deeply impressed. My imagination anticipated what it must be in that period when the Lord's mighty voice shall give commission to his angels. Go your ways, and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth. Revelation 16 verse 1. Thy right hand, O God, shall dash in pieces thine enemies. Revelation 6 and 7 are full of meaning. Terrible are the judgments of God revealed. The seven angels stood before God to receive their commission. To them were given seven trumpets. This is directly quoting from Revelation 8:2. And I saw the seven angels which stood before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. What is the context here? She says it's in reference to the future judgments of God. She has just mentioned the seven last plagues in Revelation 16, and she has just mentioned Revelation 6 and 7. And now she is tying together Revelation 8 and the seven trumpets, all in the same context. She continues, the Lord was going forth to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity, and the earth was to disclose her blood and no more cover her slain. Give the description in chapter 6. When the plagues of God shall come upon the earth, hail will fall upon the wicked about the weight of a talent. The dramatic hailstorms that we've just witnessed cannot even begin to give us any idea of the damage that will be caused when hailstones the weight of a talent come crashing to earth. A talent is about 100 pounds, and the damage inflicted by ice balls of that magnitude is really quite inconceivable. At a guess, if you were hit by one of these things, the effect would be similar to like stepping on a grape. Mrs. White now continues. The hail had struck Brother Belden. One struck him on the back of the head, raising a large lump. Another struck him near the temple. The bruise still shows upon the hands of Sister Belden, but what must it be like when the hail shall be so much increased in size, falling upon those who had not care for and obey God, but insulted him and despised all his mercies. But there are mercies mixed with judgment. Revelation chapter 7, 3 and 4. She's clearly connecting the plagues, the trumpets and seals as future judgments of God. Clearly the seven last plagues, we know that they are without mercy. But she has told us clearly that there are some judgments of God that are going to be mixed with mercy. Some, like the plagues, come after the close of probation and are without mercy, but others, like the trumpets, are before probation closed and mixed with mercy. It is clear from the context that all these judgments spoken of here are future judgments and not just history. Jeremiah also saw the coming future judgments of God. In Jeremiah 4:19, he says, my bowels, I am pained at my very heart. My heart maketh a noise in me. I cannot hold my peace, because thou hast heard, O my soul, the sound of the trumpet and the alarm of war. Destruction upon destruction is cried, for the whole land is spoiled. Suddenly are my tents spoiled and my curtains in a moment. How long shall I see the standard and hear the sound of trumpet? For my people is foolish, they have not known me. They are sottish children, and they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. The following statement is from Patriarchs and Prophets, page 536. It says, the prophecies which the great I Am has given in his word, uniting link after link in the chain of events, from eternity in the past to eternity in the future. Tell us where we are today in the procession of the ages and what may be expected in the time to come. All that prophecy has foretold is coming to pass until the present time has been traced upon the pages of history, and we may be assured that all which is yet to come will be fulfilled in its order. The present is a time of overwhelming interest to all living, rulers and statesmen, men who occupy positions of trust and authority. Thinking men and women of all classes have their attention fixed upon events taking place about us. Now, that's certainly true today. Of all the things that are going on in the world today, there's so much confusion, there's so much crazy things going on. So much crisis is all over the world in all sectors of society that everybody is concerned about what is going on in the world. They are watching the relations that exist among the nations. They observe the intensity that is taking possession of every earthly element, and they recognize that something great and decisive is about to take place, that the world is on the verge of a stupendous crisis. The Bible, and the Bible only, give the correct view of these things. Here, in the Bible, are revealed the great final scenes of the history of our world. Events that are already casting their shadows before the sound of their approach, causing the earth to tremble and men's hearts to fear. I am pained at my heart. I cannot hold my peace, because thou hast heard, O my soul, the sound of the trumpet and the alarm of war. Destruction upon destruction is cried, and the whole land is spoiled. Jeremiah 4:19 and 20. Now she quotes that from Jeremiah with this prophecy and states that the prophecy will be fulfilled in its order. She says the Bible, and the Bible only, gives the correct view of these things, and we are on the verge of this stupendous crisis. The trumpet will sound and destruction is cried. Jeremiah is experiencing heartfelt pain and anguish, and he asks the question, how long shall I see the standard and hear the sound of the trumpet? The trumpets are revealed in chapters 8 to 11 of the book of Revelation, and they are judgments that are associated with the last warning message of mercy to be given to the world. These trumpets are judgments designed to bring the whole world to a choice, and that choice is about who they're going to worship: the creator God of the universe, or the God of this world, Satan, the destroyer, the evil one, who appears as an angel of light to deceive those who love darkness rather than light. So who are we going to choose? The creator God of the universe, or the God of this world, Satan? In 2 Corinthians 11:14 it says, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. The following statement is from 9 Testimonies, page 97. She says, there are many with whom the Spirit of God is striving. The time of God's destructive judgments is the time of mercy for those who have had no opportunity to learn what is truth. Did you notice that? There's a time when God's destructive judgments are mixed with mercy, not the ones that, this is not talking about the close of probation, this is talking about before probation closes, because we know that when probation closes, there's no more mercy. Tenderly will the Lord look upon them. His heart is full of mercy and is touched. His hand is still stretched out to save, while the door is closed to those who would not enter. So there's a period before probation closes where some people's probation has already closed, while others who have not heard the truth will have an opportunity at the time of God's destructive judgments. That's from 9T, page 97. God gave the message of the trumpets to John nearly 2,000 years ago. These messages have been misunderstood because it was not the right time, because they are the last message of mercy to awaken the world that Christ is about to come. It is our job as God's remnant people to herald the three angels' messages. But have you considered the connection between Revelation 14 and the trumpets? Revelation 14:6 says, and I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel, to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, fear God, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. Notice that this is a global message. It is going to every kindred, nation, tongue, and people. It is also a call to worship the true God, because the time of his judgment is come. But now I want to connect the dots with the trumpets and Revelation 14 and the three angels' message. Revelation 14 says this, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. Notice the elements that are being mentioned here. Heaven, earth, sea, and the fountains of waters. The whole world is called during the time of God's judgments, when they're coming on the world, to worship God, the God who made all of these things, the true God. Now notice what the trumpets say. In the first trumpet it says in Revelation 8:7, the first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of the trees was burned up, and all the green grass was burnt up. So what's being affected in the first trumpet? The earth. Second trumpet, Revelation 8:8, and the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. And a third part of the sea became blood, and a third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. So what's being affected in the second trumpet? The sea. Third trumpet, Revelation 8:10, and the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many people died of the waters because they were made bitter. So what's the judgment on the third trumpet? It's affecting the fountains of waters. The fourth trumpet, Revelation 8:12, and the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not through a third part of it, and the night likewise. So what's the fourth trumpet being affected? The sun, moon, and the stars, or the heavens. Did you notice that? The first four trumpets are mixed with mercy because they are only affecting a third, and they are affecting the earth, the sea, and the fountains of waters, and the heavens. Exactly the same things which the first angel's message declares who the God of this world has made those things. So these are judgments of God upon the things that God has made in the first four trumpets. They're affecting the creation which God has made. There's a clear distinction here of the call when it is called to come and worship the true God will be happening during the time of the outpouring of the trumpets. Now we're going to look a lot more deeply into the trumpets specifically and go through them individually in greater depth. So if you want to learn more about them, come back to our next videos, which are going to be produced in the near future. There is an in-depth study that has been done on the seven trumpets, looking at each of the seven trumpets in depth. And if you would like to download a copy of this book, you can go to our website at www.prophecyagain.com.au/theseventrumpetsbook.html, and you can download a free copy of that study.